Hi, this is Lamar, and you're listening to Getting to Third Space with Lamar and Tom. A third space is a term that refers to a safe space for people to come together for respectful dialogue in a spirit of listening, sharing, and learning. In this podcast, we explore what it means to have third space conversations, and we try to model them. If you like what you hear in this podcast, please be sure to subscribe, share it, and of course, like it. The more people join us, the quicker we get to third space as a society. Now let's get to third space today.
Hey, good morning, Lamar. And it is morning still.
It is still morning. Good morning, Tom.
Hey, how's your week going?
Well, you know, I'm tired. I'm tired.
I thought you were tired. You look kind of tired. Yeah.
So
You've been getting ready for a show, right?
I was ready for a show. I am ready for a show. But you know that I take on projects sometimes around my home.
Uh-oh.
And sometimes projects take a long time. Some have been in process for years. But I tend to overbuild when I do my building projects.
Oh.
A friend of mine and a friend helped me build a deck, a couple of friends actually, but his comment when we were done was, you know, Kansas is known for tornadoes, and if I was you, if you got a tornado coming, I'd come sit on your deck versus in your house. You overbuilt this thing. It's not going to fly away. So the other day, I decided I'm going to cut my own glass for my pictures that I do. My frame, I make my own frames.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to cut my own glass. And I was encouraged by a couple of people. And I said, well, what do I need? And they said, well, you need a glass cutter. In fact, why don't you get a wall mount glass cutter? Because they're a lot easier. I said, okay. So Lamar gets on the line and he finds a used glass cutter in South Central Kansas and drives down to get it at a really, really good price. And what I didn't realize was that it's like between 6 and 7 feet tall. Made out of heavy steel, and I need to mount it on the inside of my shed. That is not that big. In fact, it wouldn't even go. It would go through the roof. And so, anyway, I was doing that. I actually needed the help of my wife to lift the pieces on so I could bolt them on. So,
Oh my goodness!
But I have an amazing glass cutter now in my shed.
Wow. All right. Okay.
So I'm tired.
Yeah.
How about you? How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing okay. I've been playing some golf, and so here
Wow.
I'm developing what we would call back in Iowa a farmer's tan.
Farmer's tan looks good on you, Tom.
Actually, a farmer's sunburn, and
Yeah.
so I've been playing a little bit of golf, and just staying really busy with this stuff. You know, this whole idea of retirement as being a time when you're not that busy. Who invented that myth, for crying out loud? I mean, my goodness.
It's how you approach retirement.
It's apparently so.
Yes.
So. But, there's something energizing about it, too.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
hey, I'm excited about today's guest.
I tell you what, me too. I've been
Mhm.
wanting to get this guy on for a while. His name is J.T. Vonderhaar, and he is known as the Iowa Investigator. Now, I know that sounds a little bit like CSI Iowa,
That's right.
But it's not. It's not. JT it tells stories about small towns and little known events out of the history of the state of Iowa. And it's
amazing.
absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And we're gonna put some links to his stuff in our show notes, and I really encourage people to check it out. He's got quite a following, actually. We didn't get a chance, as people will find out when they watch the podcast. We didn't get a chance to ask him how many followers he has exactly, because we did have a computer issue. But
You'll find that out.
You'll find out. But JT, he's a graduate of Coe College. He was a basketball player. He did his degrees in business administration and poli-sci with a minor in history. He worked at a bank for 10 years, and then he started producing TikTok videos about these stories of small town Iowa.
Just a couple of years ago.
just a couple of years ago, and it has turned into kind of his thing.
Mhm.
He makes a little money doing it, and he's left the bank and has he does some really cool stuff.
And
So,
like any good presenter, it's on how you tell the stories. And
yes.
I'm impressed on stories that most of us would think are boring or inconsequential. He has a way of telling stories that just keeps you engaged, and they're not long. They're short presentations, but he gets right to it.
Yeah, he does.
He's just he's a very curious man.
Yeah, well, we should get right to JT. We have him hanging out in the green room there, and we need to check in with him and see how it's going and get going.
Munching on the goodies you sent him.
Yeah. All right, let's bring him in.
All right.
Hey, JT, it's great to see you.
It's good to be seen.
Welcome, JT, to the show.
All right, Lamar, are you going to ask him?
Oh, I'll ask him, JT. How did the gift basket look when you showed up in the green room today? Because Tom actually ordered it today, and I'm curious how he did.
The spread was great. I'm really looking forward to after the show to kind of indulging into everything that was in there. I'm so nervous coming on with you guys. I couldn't really look at too much of that stuff, but.
Tom, what did you put in at this for after the show only?
Well, we have a Puerto Rican distillery here in.
Okay. All right.
Oh no, it's some Maryland goodies, to go with the Iowa goodies. You've got some Old Bay. Don't do it directly from the can. That won't taste very good. And but hopefully, on those catfish fillets that are in there, make sure you keep them cold. Just sprinkle some of that on there, and it'll be really good.
Yeah, I trust your word for it. So
yep, a little bit of catfish from the Mississippi, and that's good to hear.
Well, JT, we are really, really happy that you're joining us here, and we did introduce you in the before you joined us, and but if you want to know, what we said, you're going to have to listen to the podcast at that point. But
I'm sure it was lovely.
It was lovely. It really was. It was very, very nice. But I think that Lamar and I just kind of discovered you.
Yeah.
Quite by accident, in a sense. Wandering through the internet one day, and after I saw your piece on dragons in Iowa, I contacted Lamar and I said, "Okay, we got to get this guy on."
well, first I thought I ought to listen to it, and then I realized that you were talking about the areas that I'm very familiar with. I got to tell you, I hadn't seen any dragons, but after listening to your show, I thought I'm going to be a little bit more aware, particularly in the evenings when I go back home to Iowa.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any dragons, and honestly, I made that video, and I think it's clear to a lot of people I was being fairly tongue-in-cheek about it because I've lived here, and I'm like, I feel like I would have seen one by now. But I didn't realize the amount of people that very much believe that there are dragons, and I got a lot of messages of people that seemed like serious, good-hearted messages saying, "I've seen one. I was on this road. We swear we saw one," and I'm like, okay, so. Mark me as slightly skeptical on that now. So who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I do have to tell you, JG, I have seen some strange things at night driving the back roads of Southeast Iowa.
Oh, yes.
I believe it. Yeah. Trust me, I believe it.
Yeah.
Well, we would like to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself. Basically, what would you like our listeners to know about you is the core question here. And by the way, we should probably just say we decided to wear our Hawkeye hats here today in honor of you, because when you appear as the Iowa Investigator, telling these fabulous stories, unknown stories about small towns in Iowa, you've always got your Iowa Investigator hat or some type of hat on. So we thought we'd join you. We go all Hawkeye on you here.
That's partially because I have bad hair. So I'm always wearing a hat. I'm not going bald, but my hair is just not, it's crazy and it doesn't cooperate with me. So, but I guess to tell you a little bit about myself, much like you guys discovering me on accident, I kind of discovered my internet persona on accident. I started making videos randomly using TikTok, probably in like 2022, and was really just doing it for fun and was not doing much of anything or doing anything of any sort of substance, just really random stuff. And somewhere along the way, I had about 1,400 followers, which seemed like a lot at the time. And I kind of got the idea that, okay, I found a list of all the towns in Iowa listed in order of population. And I found the town that was closest to 1,400 people, which was the amount of followers I had. And I said, okay, I'm going to make a video about this town. And then it'll be a call to action. If you want me to make a video about the next town or any of the towns going up, you have to follow me and help me get enough followers that my follower count would correspond with the population of the town you want to see. So it was just kind of almost a gimmick to see if I could gain followers doing that. And people started enjoying those videos and I started enjoying making those videos. So I kind of expanded it to say like, okay, I'll keep doing this, but I'll also make other videos about other things in Iowa. And it kind of expanded from there. And that was probably 2+ years ago that I kind of pivoted my focus to being like, this is going to be mostly about stuff in Iowa. And it kind of grew from there. It's a lot of history stuff. It's a lot of human interest stuff. But I also kind of give myself the latitude to say, I'll talk about whatever I want, like within the state of Iowa. And a lot of that ends up being history because I found that I'm kind of a history inclined person. I grew up enjoying history. I've always enjoyed reading history books. And I also grew up in Iowa, but I didn't know much about Iowa history. A little bit, but I knew a lot about World War II and the Vietnam War and early American history. I'd been taught that in schools. I'd studied that, but I'd never studied Iowa history. And then when I kind of started peeling back some of the layers of that onion, I was like, there's a lot of good stories here and a lot of cool stories and history to tell. And if me as a history inclined person wasn't aware of these stories, there's probably other people like me that would find these stories cool. And then I found some of those people and they followed me and I just kept making videos. So that's kind of the very, the minute and a half background of how my page came to be. And the Iowa Investigator was a name that I just had a generic name on TikTok. And then I was making videos and someone commented and said, you're like the Iowa Investigator. And I was like, you know what? That might work. Or maybe I'll just change my name to JT, the Iowa Investigator, and see where it goes from there. And now probably 500, 600 videos later, we're here. So,
wow.
JT, what strikes me about what you are doing is this can be done anywhere. I mean, you're focusing on Iowa and your area, but it just takes someone to be curious and someone to just kind of look. And sometimes you don't have to dig terribly deep, but to just be curious, to start looking in your what's around you and learn a little bit more about you, about the people, about the situations. And it can happen in any state, in any area. But I'm so glad you're doing this in Iowa because both Tom and I have a heart for some of these stories for sure.
Yeah, and the curiosity thing, and I kind of find myself weird sometimes. Like I was driving just recently and, Scott County, Iowa used to be the largest onion producing county in Iowa when Iowa produced onions. And it was just all along the river. There's no onion fields there anymore. Yeah. But I was driving along there the other day and I'm like, man, it was crazy that this used to just be plains of onion fields and now it's nothing. And I'm like, what percentage of people would actually drive by that and be like, that's cool? Well, it might be small, but I'm one of those people. So it's just kind of that it's like you can go out and touch it and I can go out and look and be like, man, this used to be where they grew onions and now they don't grow onions anymore. And it's like, is that cool? Maybe not, but to me it is. So.
Oh, JT, you are a man after my own heart, I think, as Lamar knows. I love those kinds of things. In fact, I probably have one of the largest troves of worthless information that I find tremendously interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
might have
funny.
agreed with that.
My wife and I were just talking I had sent her a clip the other day about plaque readers. And it's like there's people that are plaque readers that every time they see a plaque, they need to stop and read it. And then there are people that aren't plaque readers at all. And I'm like the most plaque reader person in the world, and my wife's like the most non-plaque reader person in the world. And I'm like, I don't know how this happened, but it's like, yeah, it's like I'm a plaque reader. If I see a plaque, I got to read what they're commemorating here. So
Yeah. Well, that means it takes you a little time to drive across country, right?
right, it adds time. So.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we're really curious about a lot of these stories that you have uncovered. And I got to be honest with you, Tom is, like I said, a trove of useless information that is very interesting. So he knows a lot more about some of these stories than I know. And so I'm really curious as I listen to your cast to kind of get a sense of what's happening in Iowa, or what has happened in Iowa. But can you talk with us a little bit about some of the stories that you've enjoyed the most?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a couple dozen that stick out as being particularly fun. One that I talk about a lot that I think kind of encapsulates everything that my page and my internet presence has become is like the government bridge in Davenport, Iowa. Some people call it the Arsenal Bridge in Davenport, Iowa, which I grew up in that area. And to me, growing up, it was just kind of the scary old bridge. And it's old, and it's got a great bottom to it. So it's like when you're going over it, you can actually look down and see the water, and the grates bang. So it's really, really loud. And I started looking at the history of this bridge, and I'm like, I grew up thinking that's just kind of the scary old bridge you want to avoid if you can. And it's one of the most significant pieces of infrastructure in U.S. history. I mean, it was the first rail bridge across the Mississippi. Technically, the one that exists there isn't the original, because the original was hit by a boat and burned down. It was kind of a conspiracy. But if you just look at this, not only was it significant for Manifest Destiny and the Civil War, but the historical figures that have their fingerprints on that bridge are pretty incredible. I mean, Robert E. Lee did the survey along that part of the river. That's how they chose the location. Abraham Lincoln, before he was a politician, represented the bridge when it was initially struck and burned down. The barge company sued and said, you can't have a bridge there. Abraham Lincoln represented the bridge. Initially, the bridge was vetoed by Jefferson Davis, who goes on to become the Confederate president. He was Secretary of War at the time. The bridge kind of island hops over a military base. He didn't want the bridge in the north. He wanted it in the south. So he nixed the bridge initially. It ended up getting built anyway. So it's like, if you just look at this bridge, looks like a scary old bridge, but it's just incredibly historic. And when you tell that story, people are like, wow, like I didn't realize that. And I'm like, that's how I feel about the bridge. So that's definitely one that kind of sticks out to me as having like, it's kind of everything my page is about. It's like, there is cool stuff here if you look around. Yeah. So that's one for sure that pops into my head.
Is there one that you feel has had the biggest impact? I'm not exactly sure how you would measure impact.
Yeah.
But just, I guess it might be in terms of just how widely it gets out there and where it's picked up and that kind of stuff.
One, I mean, especially if you go from a views standpoint, I made a video about Jack Trice, who some people are probably aware, the Iowa State's football stadium is named after him, Jack Trice Stadium, but he was a football player for Iowa State. I believe in the 1920s. I'd have to look at that story. I think it was the 1920s, but he was the first.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay,
my trove says that is correct.
Yeah, and I'd have to go and look. And sometimes I make these videos and then I don't remember all the specific details so I'm not an expert on any of them, but I believe he was also the first African-American football player at Iowa State and one of the first in the history of college football. I don't believe he was the first, but I believe he was one of the handful of firsts.
Yeah.
And he was tragically killed in a game at Minnesota, where all you have of it now are accounts of it. There's no video or anything, but there seems to be a lot of evidence he was targeted specifically for his race, and he suffered injuries in that game that ended up killing him. So it's a tragic story. But I told that story, and because it's so wide ranging, that one hit the algorithm in a way that got it way outside of Iowa. It got to a college football audience, a college football history audience, a African American history audience, and that video really went crazy. And I think that's important because so many people look at Jack Trice and they just think of the stadium. I mean, that's what I would have thought of. It's like, if someone says Jack Trice, you're like, oh, you're going to Jack Trice, you're going to a game. And that's important because that stadium was named after him and it honors him. But to know the story of what actually happened with him, and I think from the response I got to that video, it's clear there's a lot of people that didn't know that story. It's a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this, or there needs to be a movie about this, or why don't more people know about this? And I think that's cool. So that one definitely, I think just global impact, I think that one was cool. So,
and a story like that would bring out, I think, a lot of emotion as well.
Yeah,
not only do we not know about it, and I don't know, when people respond to you, do you tend to respond back to them?
It depends. I mean, sometimes if a video is going crazy, you might be getting thousands of comments. So I try to pick and choose. And if I feel I can have a healthy dialogue with this comment, I might engage with it. Sometimes they're just so, even if people are acting in good faith or trying to have a discussion in good faith, they might have a really long comment. And it's like, if I engage with this, it just opens up a can of worms. And then I just don't think a comment section is necessarily the best medium to have some of those conversations. Like, I think comment sections can be kind of quick and, yep, I agree. Or, here's what I think, quick. But when you end up having to type out whole paragraphs and comments to try to rationalize what you're thinking or explain yourself, I feel like you're losing.
Sure.
But I do try to, if people are moving the conversation along, I will engage with people, or if they have a quick question or a clarification, I'll try to answer those. But there are certain conversations that are good for a comment section and certain ones that aren't.
So on that particular story, how did you get your information? And does Iowa State have any information for you?
They have archives of his. So I definitely used their archives and some information from their website as a resource. I didn't reach out to them to get anything. They never requested cooperation. I was able to find a lot of literature on it, a lot of different stuff, but I believe most of that information would have come from Iowa State itself. And the university has done, seemingly to me, a good job in the last couple decades of honoring him, because they did go for a period where they kind of, I think it was just uncomfortable for everyone. And I think they've done a good job of bringing it back and making sure he's honored as well as they can. So
it absolutely would make an amazing movie. I mean, there are lessons all over the place in that.
I mean, I know Iowa State had several games forfeited to them because teams would refuse to play a team that had a rostered black player, which is crazy. And it's crazy that was only a little over 100 years ago. I think sometimes we pretend that was 5,000 years ago, and it's like, that's not the grand scheme of things. That's basically yesterday. So,
So that's a story that had a big impact, obviously, on people, and people responded to. Was there a story that you covered that was really important to you, that you felt was important to tell, even if it didn't have a really big impact?
I think I don't even know if it's really a story so much as an event. But basically, I went down to West Point, Iowa for the Sweet Corn Festival. And that was really cool for me because I believe my great grandfather, he may have been born in West Point. He lived in Fort Madison. but his father was born in West Point, and his father's father would have been born in Germany. So this was like the first group of immigrants from my family that came over, and they lived in that town. I had never been to that town. I had never spent any time in that town, but it was really cool to go there. I won the sweet corn eating contest, which it sounds more impressive than if you would have seen the field I was going against. It's not as impressive. I wasn't expecting to win until I saw the number of competitors that were actually in it. But that was really cool just to go around that town. I spent some time going to the museum and the library, and just they have a little historical thing about the town, and the number of things I saw with my last name on them of people that I've never heard of, but I know are my distant ancestors in some way, because I just know there's not that many people with my last name, and there weren't multiple strings of them in West Point, Iowa. So to me, that was really cool, because it was like I can connect with this part of my roots that I was never even aware of. But yeah, I think that was awesome. So I don't think that had a great impact on a ton of people, but to me, that was a cool story to tell, just because it was connected directly to me.
Well, it makes an impact on us because we can now welcome you as a Southeast Iowan.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're both from that part of the world. So
yeah.
So I have to ask you, I have not been to the Sweet Corn Festival. I've not gone. Can you tell us what happens at a Sweet Corn Festival in addition to the eating contest?
Tom here. You know, getting to third space is always free. We love doing this, and it is a labor of love we hope makes the world a better place. We don't ask you for money, but we do ask you to help us grow our audience. Hit the like button, share the podcast, and subscribe yourself. All of these will help us grow. Thanks.
You know, last summer I went to several small town festivals in Iowa. A lot of the towns have them. They're very similar to each other. So like it's almost like they all have their special little, it's watermelon days, or it's sweet corn days, or it's beef days in Solon. And it's kind of like the festivals all kind of look pretty similar to each other. And then there's always just one thing, like in Solon, there's a bunch of beef everywhere. And in West Point, they have the sweet corn, which is really cool. So when it comes down to it, like a lot of these small town festivals, which I think are great, are kind of all the same, except for little differences in terms of what they're trying to celebrate specifically.
So are you saying the menus are different, basically?
Like on the periphery, they're different, but ultimately you can still get your grilled pork tenderloin. You can still get, I think a lot of the same vendors kind of bounce around. You can get your corn dogs, you can get so like I'd go to one and then I'd be at another one the next week and I'd be like, I feel like these are all the same vendors that just came to the next small town festival, but
probably.
Oh, that's interesting. That's cool. It kind of reminds me of the movie Doc Hollywood, where the doctor gets a car trouble in a small town that has, I think it's a zucchini festival or something like squash festival, and becomes the doctor of the town. Anyways, long story, but yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. See, going around to small festivals, that sounds like a lot of fun, though.
It does.
Yeah, it's a blast, and I noted like it's fun for me too, because if I wear my hat and I tell people I'm going, people will recognize me and be like, "Oh, hey, like, how's it going? I watch your videos." There's not really much I can do in that situation. I'm like, I feel like I should perform or have like a dance I do for people when they recognize me. It ends up being like, "Hey, I appreciate it. Like, tell your friends to follow. Like, I love you guys." But like that is always kind of cool and gratifying a little bit when people are like, "Oh," and I'm also taller than most people realize. Like I'm a fairly big human, which people don't notice. It doesn't come through on the screen, but when I'm at these places, people are always like, "Wow, you're taller than I thought you'd be." I'm like, okay.
Well, how tall are you, JT?
5.
You're what?
Okay.
6'5".
Holy cow!
Yeah, and that's real.
That's why you were a basketball player, right?
Yeah, that's why I wasn't athletic or very good, but I was tall enough. So
wow, that is pretty tall. Well, you'd tower over me for sure.
So, JT, we have a question a little bit about what are some of the similarities you might see in the work that you're doing, and maybe some of the things that we're doing. In trying to get to third space and interacting with people, and finding some commonalities. How do you see what you're doing and how that might fit or blend with a little bit of what we're trying to do?
well, first off, I think what you guys are doing is really cool. I think just the concept of third space and third spaces are important and overlooked. And it's kind of weird with me because I didn't start this page with any sort of goal. I mean, I started this page just being like, I'm going to mess around, make videos, and it kind of morphed slowly into something. But now that I've been doing this for a while and have really kind of tried to keep my finger on the pulse of the state, more than just living here from having this page, I think it's important for people to talk and interact with each other and share ideas. And that's kind of one of the things I like to do with my page is say like, hey, there's commonalities we can find. And whether it's enjoying history or enjoying these different, little nooks and crannies in the state, or, talking about bigger issues or things that are going on, more current events. I think dialogue's important. I think that's how problems get solved, is people having good faith conversations about all different sorts of things. And that can go from things as inconsequential to sports to as consequential as cancer rates in Iowa. I mean, there's a whole range of topics that I feel healthy dialogue between like-minded people, non-like-minded people, whatever. I mean, the whole gambit is healthy, and it seems like that's what you guys are trying to embrace, is different types of conversations and different ways of coming at issues. And that's kind of what I like to do. I like interactions. I don't think anything I say is infallible. I don't think I'm the smartest person around, but I like to have conversations. And like sometimes I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. And if someone comes at me with information that I wasn't aware of and I want to change my mind, I'm fine changing my mind. Healthy dialogue is harder to come by nowadays. It's not always easy on social media just because it can become very toxic. But, I think having more people talking and having good faithed conversations is always going to be a net positive for society. So,
well, and it seems that like with the stories you're telling, it provides a common space where people, regardless of their ideologies, they can come together and say, hey, what an interesting story. I didn't know that. I didn't know the story of Jack Trice. I didn't know the story of the Arsenal Bridge. I didn't know any of that. And so it's a way for them to kind of start a conversation, right, around that. One of the things that we struggle with is how to handle politics in our podcast, because our podcast is really about civil dialogue. And how do you facilitate civil dialogue, especially when people are coming at issues or things from different perspectives or different, even based on different ideologies? And sometimes we've been criticized for having political guests and talking about political topics. But here's the problem. Right now, the environment in our country that makes the necessity for trying to talk about how to have civil dialogues is largely because we are so divided on politics. So it's really hard to talk about civil dialogues without getting into politics for us. How do you approach politics as the Iowa Investigator?
Yeah, it's something I've kind of thought a decent amount about, because it's become more prescient, and it's become more prescient lately. I mean, because Iowa's kind of in the midst of a very important election, and every politician and every political commentator always says this is the most important election of our lifetimes. this is a different election than anyone that's been around in my lifetime. There hasn't been an open governor and open Senate seat in the same year since before I was alive. Like, I'm a political person. People assume I'm like a historian of some sort. I'm not. I think you could probably see the little errors I make that would prove I'm not a historian. I studied political science. I majored in political science in college. I minored in history. It's always been something I've been very interested in. And I just kind of made the decision that I'm going to talk about these issues in an open and honest way. And I think there are a slice of people that will criticize you for that. And those people tend to be loud. They tend to like to announce that they're unhappy. So if you make a political video and there's 10 comments of people being like, oh, I can't stand this, you went political. It's like, well, there's hundreds of people that watched this and didn't have that reaction. It's just they didn't comment and say, I'm okay with this. Like, this doesn't bother me. Like, please keep talking about politics. They just either like the video and move on. Politics has become much more toxic. I grew up in a very politically ambiguous environment. I knew a lot of people I grew up with who I considered conservative and liberal. And it's like I interacted with all these people and I had, conversations with them that even people I disagreed with, and it could be civil and it could be even contentious at times, but it didn't become personal. You could kind of understand where the other person was coming from. That's a healthy way to engage with it. And there are going to be certain people who they can't handle it. And it's a little bit weird to me because I'm like, when people will see a video where I discuss politics and they'll be like, wow, you went political. I used to like this page and now I have to unfollow. I'm like, I'm not compelling you to watch this video. That's weird to me that you would say I enjoyed what you do here, but I don't enjoy what you do here, so I have to cut myself off from all of it. That seems like more of an issue with that particular person than me. I just kind of am like, that's okay. And you have to be okay with a little vitriol coming back at you. And
Sure,
there are people that disagree with me on political things that do so in a healthy, engaging way, and they'll type out a thoughtful response, and I'll be like, fair enough. Like, you've thought about this. Like, I think you've healthily engaged with what I said, and you've said you disagree, and that's okay. I think that can be a healthy way to discuss things. There are also people who will say, you're a moron, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, you're just mad. I feel like I would be doing a disservice to myself if I just ignored that and didn't talk about those things to try to protect a certain segment of people that just can't engage with it in a healthy way. And so it is a choice to make for sure, because when you make any video that's political, some people will think that taints everything else you do. I don't think that should be the case. I think in a healthy environment, that wouldn't be the case. We should be able to compartmentalize certain things. And if you can't do that, that's okay. That's how I want my page to work. I want to be able to celebrate the cool things and the historical things, but also talk about the real issues that are going on here, because I think they're really important. It's a challenge though, because every time you post something that's halfway political, you're just kind of poking a hornet's nest potentially, but it always seems worse than it actually is, I've found.
JT, if we go back to how you got into this, and it's good to know your background in political science and history, because political science would really be, correct me if I'm wrong, but it really feeds off the curiosity of people about politics. What is it? How does it work? What are the factors, and et cetera. And it's hard for some people to be curious about politics without defining themselves as, red or blue. And, the challenge I think that Tom and I face and others face is how do we talk about politics in the purple realm? How do we be curious? How do we be informed? How do we try to understand from a purple perspective And maybe why is it that people don't tend to go purple in their conversations as much?
Yeah, I think purple to some people, honestly, it's boring. It's just kind of like, oh, you're just trying to play the fence, which, whatever. I mean, that's the thing about politics. If you're purple, you're wrong. If you're red, you're wrong. If you're blue, you're wrong. So it's just, but it just depends. It's just different people calling you wrong. That's the difference. It's just, so
I like that.
I think I grew up in sports. It's kind of like that. It's like they're trying to apply sports to politics, where there's the red team over here, there's the blue team over here. You're on one of those teams. If you purport not to be on one of those teams and you say you're in the middle, you're kind of an outcast to both of the teams. And, you look at TV and there's this team has a channel and this team has a channel, and this team has their commentators and this team has their commentators. And people almost consume it. Like, they're not trying to get information and think for themselves. They're trying to see, well, what's my team doing today? What's the other team doing that's making them lose today? And I think we've been conditioned to consume politics that way, where it's like, oh, did you see what happened with my team yesterday? Like, that was really good. Or that idiot on the other team, did you hear what he said? And it's not actually getting at, well, what do you think? Like, what do you think's important? And then how do you reflect your values onto the leadership of the country? Like, that's kind of what it gets down to. And I think it's way easier to sell advertising and to get views by doing the team style. These two teams are battling it out, and then we find out who wins on election day. I feel like since everyone's conditioned to look at it that way, it's hard to look at anything that's purple because it confuses people. What team do they want to win? For those people, purple doesn't interest them, and it confuses them, honestly, because they're like, well, this is weird. So that's kind of the challenge. It's like you try to play both sides. And I think objectivity's important, and being able to look at what's happening, even if you don't like it, is important. And some people just struggle with that. It's just, my team needs to win.
So it may have been when we were doing our meet and greet with you that we were talking a little bit about this statement. And I don't know if this is a statement from you or somebody you quoted, but it's, Americans don't want a diversity of opinions. They want their opinions spouted back at them from a different sounding voice.
Yeah,
Is that from you?
That is not from me. That I did say that, and I was quoting someone else. I don't know who exactly I was quoting, and I think I was quoting someone who was quoting someone else. But I do agree with the sentiment.
I was going to say, it has the ring of truth, doesn't it?
Well, and I've found that when I post something political, and I'll get a comment like, "I can't believe you went political. We get enough politics elsewhere." I'm unfollowing. Every once in a while, I'll go look at that person's page, and it'll be very clear this is a political person. So it wasn't that I talked about politics. It was that I talked about politics in a way they didn't like. If I would have said something from their perspective, I promise they would have been fine with it. So, and that's what people say. They're like, we don't need politics. It's like, you seem to like politics. You just didn't like what I was saying. They mask it as, I don't like politics at all, which I know is not true, because I can look at the other stuff you're posting and you clearly like politics. You just don't like the sound of my voice when I said it. And I find that with a lot of people, they want the illusion that they're diverse thinkers and that they're getting information from multiple sides and they understand multiple sides of the argument, but they really don't, because they're just getting a lot of their information from an echo chamber. And I think that's a problem, and it's easy to do. I understand it. I mean, if that's what you like, and you get used to listening to a certain type of media, I just think there's a disconnect from what people say they want with politics in terms of diversity of opinion and what they actually consume.
JT, one of the things that Tom and I in the last year have really been challenged by is a guest or two that we've had that have really challenged us on their work in the areas of kindness and being kind to other people. And so we've been asking our guests, and we've shared ourselves, but asking our guests about acts of kindness that you've received that have made a difference for you. And then on the flip side, kind of acts of kindness you've done that you have hoped would have made a difference for others. Can you share a couple of situations with us?
An act of kindness that was done for me, and this is it's just a unique story that I'm still kind of flabbergasted by it. And it wasn't super impactful or anything, but I just think it's unique. This was probably 2 or 3 years ago. It was my birthday, and I was getting some beer at a gas station. I was over 21 by quite a ways at that point. And I was checking out, and they ID'd me, which was nice. So I'm like fumbling through my wallet to get my ID. And I told the lady, I'm like, it's actually my birthday today. And I was kind of struggling to get it out. And this guy comes out from the corner and says, happy birthday, and throws like a wad of something. And I unfurl it, and it was $100. And by the time I had even unwound it and figured out what it was, he was gone. And I was still in the middle of my checkout. And he said like, happy birthday. And I kind of think maybe he thought I was like struggling with my card, or my card had gotten declined because I was fumbling through my wallet, and I was like heart of times. And he was like, I'm just going to help this guy on his birthday. But by the time I realized what had happened, he was out the door, and I was still in the middle of my transaction. So I couldn't go and find the guy. Like I couldn't be like, no, it's okay. I really appreciate it. But so that guy just, gave me $100 for my birthday. I don't know where he is or who he is or what he thought my situation was at the time, but that was a cool random act of kindness that guy just, I don't know if he had just won some money. I don't know I'm still kind of flabbergasted by the whole thing, because I've never had $100 just fall out of the sky into my lap. I'm like, should I just go back and pretend it's my birthday here all the time and see if people throw money at me? But so, I know that's probably not the most genuine, nice story, but it's one that always sticks to me, because I'm like,
it's amazing.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
And then acts of kindness I've done for others. I've been a part of a couple different Habitat for Humanity houses, which I'm not even good at Legos, so I'm not really very useful in those types of situations. But it is really cool to see other people who aren't builders or aren't in the construction trade necessarily, but are immensely talented at those types of things, come together and, build homes for people. So I can't take really any credit for that, because I'm so useless on a construction site, but I was there. I moved some stuff around. And that's just a cool thing to experience when, you just see people who are giving their time and they can build these homes so quickly. And it's just like, this is a really impressive act of kindness and generosity that you guys are giving of your time.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I had to sign a prenuptial agreement with my spouse that I would not attempt to repair anything in our home. So,
I can verify that happened.
Yes.
Yeah. You have a lawyer that I could get that written up for myself as well. And I'm sure my wife would be thrilled with it. So,
well, JT, our last thing here that we want to do with you today, and well, first of all, I just want to say this has been a lot of fun, and I hope that you'll consider coming back and chatting with us and sharing some more of the more fascinating stories that you're coming across. We want you to send that link to the Jack Trice story to us.
Okay.
Because we're going to put that in the show notes and your different platforms that you're using. If you could send us links, that would be great. We'll put that in.
Perfect.
But here's a question for you. Last question. Do you have any questions for us? Or do you have a question for us? Let's put it that way.
I guess my question for you is like, what are your guys' goals for this platform? Like what are you doing it? Have you met your goal? Is it growing it? Is there more stuff you guys want to do? I think the conversations you guys have are very cool and seem genuine. So I just kind of wonder what you guys see as your future with this.
Well, at our ages, the future is getting shorter. but I'll go first.
Go ahead,
I
Tom.
would say it's not money. We don't charge for this. It's, and I sincerely doubt that we'll ever get to the point where we have enough followers and such that we actually get paid by anybody. But it's part of what I feel I can do to give back at this stage of my life. That both Lamar and I come out of fields and areas where we have had to try to facilitate good conversations with people and people working collaboratively together. And I feel like this, for me, is an extension of that kind of focus through most of my career. And plus, I just like it's fun. I like doing this with Lamar. We laugh, we tell jokes, and then we do the podcast. Yeah. And sometimes we laugh and tell jokes in the podcast too. But it's really just an enjoyable thing that I do. Yeah.
Well, and it obviously is enjoyable. But I do think, JT, that part of what we're after is to foster conversation, and to build relationships with, and encourage people to build relationships. And have we met that goal? In some respects, yes, but not necessarily all the way. So we're going to continue down the road until we don't see a reason to continue.
Did it just freeze on us?
We just lost JT.
We just lost JT. All right. So JT, when you watch this, we would just want to say thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. We had a great time. And we hope to have you back on sometime soon. And JT did warn us that his computer was giving him issues.
And right at the end, there it is.
It looks like it. Right. Okay. All right. So I guess we're done. Until we do the closing.
That's
okay.
Right.
All right.
Okay. Well, that doesn't happen very often, Tom. We get to the end of the interview and the guest just leaves.
Disappears. Well, not his fault. He did.
Not his fault. He told us
did
that
warn us.
He was having some computer problems, and right in the mid-sentence, he was no longer with us. But hey, you recovered well, Tom. That was good.
Well, thank you. I'm glad. But I really enjoyed talking with JT.
That was fun.
And I think our conversation at that point where we were talking about how do we handle political stuff when so much of what is causing controversy today and dividing people is of a political nature. And of course, our task here with this podcast is to try to help people find a way to engage with one another in a civil way so that they can build relationship and that some of these divides become less toxic for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was an interesting piece of this. I mean, and I hope our listeners appreciate how hard this is to do. It's not easy. And our goal is not to offend people by any means, but simply try to say, let's figure out ways to have important conversations.
Sure. And it's helpful, I think, to approach politics with curiosity. And he talked about that a little bit. I think that's his whole podcast, is that he's a very curious man. And if we could be interested in learning along with being passionate about what we think is important, I think our conversations in the political world will be very vastly different than what they are today.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, he said he's done about 600 videos.
Yeah, he puts them out so regularly.
Oh my gosh,
he does it.
And they're like 3 minutes long. They're not long things, but they're very interesting. So there's enough material there. We could have him back on a regular basis.
Oh yeah, I think it'd be great to have JT come back and share some of the stories, and maybe even dig a little bit deeper into some of them. He shared the story, that I found fascinating, just about Iowa State, the football program, the history of the football program, and particularly about Jack Trice and that story. I think that's an important story to understand and to hear. So
Yeah.
and that was new to me. I honestly didn't know that story until he shared it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fascinating story. So, yeah. Well, there is so much to talk about, right? And who would have thought, if you hadn't grown up in Iowa, who would have thought there would be that much to talk about from small town Iowa? So
I gotta tell you, to wrap this portion up, it's about being curious about what's going on around you. You know, I'm living in Kansas, and I gotta tell you, the stories here in Kansas are fascinating.
Yes.
It's the Old West. It's pioneers. It's indigenous people. It's so many different things that wherever you're at, being curious about, who, what, where, when, and how, I think is so important. So we encourage people to pay attention.
Yep. Same thing here in Maryland. And so, folks, open your eyes and take a look at what is around you and enjoy it. Yeah. Well, okay. Lamar, you enjoy the rest of the week.
I will. You take care, Tom.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tom here. Thank you for listening to Getting to Third Space with Lamar and Tom. Remember to click on subscribe to get notices about new episodes, and be sure to like and share the podcast as well. Opinions and ideas expressed in this podcast are solely those of Lamar Roth and Tom Klaus, and we'd like to hear your opinions and ideas too. You can leave us a voice message on Spotify, or you can email us at the addresses found in the show notes. Also, in the show notes, you can find links to some of the things we talked about today, so you can check them out yourself. Until next time, keep moving forward toward third space.
This podcast was reviewed and approved by Jake and Ebby Dogs Incorporated.